Welcome to the stream. I got about an hour to build the system, and figured why not do it live. I'm gonna be building a i7-8086K workstation using a 970 Pro drive. So motherboard Asus Z370A, 32 gigs of 3600 MHz RAM, GTX 1080, EVGA for the win, 280mm all-in-one cooler, 970 Pro, 512 GB NVMe drive, Corsair SF600, and Windows 10 Pro. Alright, where's the RAMs? Here we go. What I'm doing right now is I'm just gonna be recording all the serial numbers to make my life easier in case I ever have to RMA something. So it's 3600 MHz Corsair RAM. I think the timings are like 17. It's 18, 19, 19, 39. Alright. Let's see. I wonder if the brightness could be a little better. Alright, let's get this stuff recorded. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, 4. GPU. Let's do it. Oh, I miss my 1080. How I miss it. There we go. Cooler. Thermal take. 280mm. Let's get the NVMe drive. I love NVMe drives. I swear you could actually feel it. And I would say it's very insignificant, unless you're doing big file transfers, but it feels like you're going from like, it's the same kind of snappiness as going from like 4.8 gigahertz to like 4.9 or 5 gigahertz. You kind of barely maybe can tell the difference, but it's not night and day. The night and day part comes in the large file transfers. Oh yeah, when you see 800 megabytes per second or more. Alright, we're good. We're good to start building. Let's cut some of the stuff open. For anyone just tuning in, I just took some serial numbers down. So this is a client workstation I'm building. I have about an hour to do it. And hour in just assembly. Later today I'll install the image and overclock and do all that good stuff. I'm just randomly unboxing at this point. Making sure all of the stuff is off. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I do D-lids also. I do mostly workstations nowadays, but I was a gamer before I got into this stuff. Average gamer, never got super duper good. Just, you know, go home and play some games a couple hours a day, and then you get married and can't play much. Alright, let's see. I think we got everything cut open. The coolest thing about this build, guys, is that it's in probably one of the smallest ATX chassis out right now. It's from Sliger. They're the OEM. They manufacture the case for Chimera? Kai now? I don't know if they changed it. It's the Cerberus-X, but if you go to sliger.com, you could see this bad boy. 15 inches tall. Right next to it is an ITX K-Slabs BH2. So this would be it right here. So let's leave it in the bag for now. Let's put together the motherboard. Gonna see. So normally when I build these, it takes about an hour and 15 minutes. Let's see how fast I could do it today. I'm not like trying to do a speed build where those guys will do them in like 10 minutes. This is a high-end build and it deserves a little more respect than that. I'm just going to be trying to, you know, just build it at a decent time. What I'm doing right now is I'm getting the M.2 standoffs and the rear I/O shield. It's about the only thing I'll need out of this box. And let's take it out of the anti-static bag. We'll shove that in there too. This pink foam is what I'm going to set it down on. It's an anti-static like foam. I love working on this actually for motherboards. It's super convenient when you're like pushing in RAM or really just doing anything. Just peel off the protective film on the chipset here, heatsink. I'm gonna try to keep an eye on chat as best as I can. I'm a rookie streamer, so I'm not the best at multitasking yet. Let's get the M.2 in though. I'm streaming on my i7 8086 build, which is that white case labs, the one with the lights on. And then my Ryzen build is the one I'm like broadcasting chat off of. The only reason I use Edge browser, guys, is to read chat. Literally. I could leave Edge at like 150% or like 200, whatever it's at, and then that way I could read it easily from, I'm probably like 5 feet away from the monitor. And since I use Chrome every day, I don't have to keep going like between 100 and like 150 or 200 or whatever. My pro tip of the day, guys, is if you're building a computer and you do not have any M.2 drives, still install the standoffs. Still do it. Because one day you might, and you don't want to have to try to find them a year later or 2 years later. And good luck getting them from Asus or MSI. I'm sure they'll send you some, but who knows? Who knows how long you have to be on the phone? Actually, I will say I've had RMA motherboards from through Gigabyte and ASRock, and it's such a pleasure. They're actually pretty good. I had an RMA AMD AM3 motherboard years ago through MSI, and I had a fine experience. But online, I know some people that really say MSI RMA sucks. I did not have that experience. Alright. And at the time, I was living like really close by, so I was able to just drop it off and pick it up the next day. Back when I used to will call from Newegg, and ASI, and all of the distributors. The move to Vegas though has been awesome. Been out here in Vegas since January. What I miss the most, well, I miss the beach because we lived in Huntington Beach, and of course family, you know. But I miss the free same-day delivery from Newegg. That's what I miss a lot. Alright. The only time I'd ever get charged on free local delivery would be if I was ordering a case. They always charge like $10 or something for a case. And I have a business account with them too, so it's not like normal retail. I don't know if they're doing normal retail free home delivery now. That you used to need to pay for. So let's drop in the CPU. How are the... Okay, things are looking okay. Alright, this is a delidded i7-8086. So I've now overclocked 4 of them. This will be number 5. They've all hit 5 gigahertz. One of them. So for the workstations, all right, you could go 1.4, 1.5. Der Bauer mentioned in his 8700K overclocking video that you could do 1.45 safely. For workstations, I'd like to keep it under 1.38. And all 4 of these 8086s have hit 5 gigahertz at 1.35 or less. I'm going to mute while I blow off the CPU just to get all the dust off in case there's any. Alright, I'm unmuted. Sometimes I forget to unmute. What I was doing there, I was just blowing off the CPU just in case there was anything left on there from the delid process. Alright. I don't know why this little bracket's slippery. Cool. We'll wipe this down later. Alright, you know, let's have some more Red Bull. How about that? Hold on, let's mute again. Oh man, I love that tangerine Red Bull. Okay, so let's do the all-in-one cooler brackets. I feel like I could do this in an hour, guys. I just don't know. I've never tried to like actually hustle. The hour and 15 number I mentioned, that's like me working at a focused, quick pace. I haven't tried like a faster pace like I'm doing right now. And I for sure haven't tried like a speed build pace. That I wouldn't do that on the client build. Alright, this is all I need. I'm using the thermal take one. It's the 280mm all-in-one. There's nothing fancy about it, except that I needed the one that has the thin little hoses, because it's easy to bend in the tiny ATX case. If you guys haven't tuned into one of these builds I've done, it's such a cool little chassis. Someone on this, alright, so Sliger has a section for user builds. Some madman shoved in 4 Volta cards in his. I cannot imagine he's actually using it that way. Like, I think it was just like a photo op kind of thing, but they're plugged in, they have power, and it's a Threadripper build. It's a Threadripper build, and he has the Enermax liquid cooler mounted in the front. Recently it was discovered that apparently Intel had a Threadripper inside within the CEO. I heard he was nicknamed the Threadripper, but AMD's been stealing Intel's naming, so they heard that Intel is developing a Threadripper, and they launched the TR4 as Threadripper, and then later on everyone found out it wasn't a CPU. It was their CEO. Okay, that was a bad joke. I am not a comedian, guys. I just get a little silly when I have an energy drink. Actually, and I can't even take credit for that joke. I can't. Steven, Savant PCs. I heard him say it first. There's like a group of us on Instagram, and we like to have fun and joke around and stuff like that. I don't think any of us have ever met in real life either. Alright, let's install the RAM. One thing I hate about Corsair RAM is that they put the protective film on everything. So it's like I gotta like take all this stuff off. And it's cool and all, it protects their cool little badging, but it makes it a pain when you're trying to build a system. That's why I use these iFixit little plastic pry bar things because the plastic won't scratch things. And they have a sharp enough point or it'll dig right in and get the label off. Alright, we're just going crazy, just ripping off these labels. This is a 32 gigabyte kit at 3600 megahertz. We've done benchmarking on the Autodesk Revit Forum RFO benchmark, and it actually shows up like 4000 megahertz RAM. It shaves off a few seconds over 3200 megahertz. So, like, let's say I think our results were something like 3200 megahertz finished the benchmark in like 77 seconds, and then 4000 finished it in 73, and that's already like the fastest benchmark result on there. Like, most of the systems are in the 100 plus second range. We just had an overclocked system, but yeah, so to see that kind of a like reduction when you're already like pretty high up there, that was pretty cool. So what I do, guys, I'm just sliding them in, but I'm not pushing them in all the way. I'm not trying to get the click just yet. I'm just getting them seated. And then since this isn't installed in a chassis, I like to have my fingers behind. I like to have my fingers behind where the solder points are, and then just push them in. Alright. Listen for the click and you're good. Hey, I probably gotta post this somewhere, but what's going on? So I'm sorry, I'm a rookie streamer, so I don't have all those tags set up. It's an i7 8086 build. We're putting it in one of these Sliger Cerberus-X chassis. Go to sliger.com, check them out. It's a super clean chassis. And I have about an hour to do it. I'm going to try to get it done in an hour. That means like later on today I have an image. So later on I'll image it and then we'll do some overclocking. But I have an hour right now to build it. So this is now prepped. We got the M.2 installed, the CPU, the RAM, and the cooler brackets. I'm going to put this off to the side, and I'm going to start working on the chassis now. Alright. So here's a white one. This one's complete. It's basically an identical build. So this one's just gray. The cool thing about this chassis is that the panels all pop off, so technically you could order different colored panels from the manufacturer and you could do like a color change. Relatively easy. This is their gunmetal color that they advertise on the site. They have a few colors on the site. It's like white and then an off-white, kind of like a retro color. They have black, gunmetal, and red. The red is kind of unique. I'm like surprised that was one of their default colors. But Sliger's super cool. Hey man, what's up AR? Nice to see you. Yeah, well, one of these is a 1080 Ti. This is a 1080 Ti. Does it show up? Right here, there's a 1080 Ti. But this one's going to be a 1080. The 1080 for this build is right here. I lost my train of thought. We're talking about colors. Oh yeah. So Sliger, they'll do like custom powder coating. They're like a Case Labs, kind of. Without the brand recognition. Everybody knows Case Labs. That's into like really high-end builds. Jay's 2 Cents has been using Case Labs in his builds, and that's probably where most people might have seen a Case Labs if you don't hang out in forums like overclock.net. Yeah, dude, there's also a For the Win 3 sitting in here. in the other room, in the little supply room I have. I'd love to throw that thing into my system, but it's destined for a client build. Kind of getting back to the build, it's like I mentioned, it's that i7. We went with the 8086. There's a lot of salt online about them. A lot of people are hating on Intel for it. I don't know why, but yes, it is an 8700K that's been binned. So if you want a guaranteed 5 gigahertz, get the 8086. If you don't really care about overclocking, if you're not going to overclock, do not get the 8086. It will be a complete waste of money. It literally will perform the same. There's a single core 5 gigahertz it'll do, but it like rarely hits it. So when you do something like Cinebench or whatever, it's not like a 5 gigahertz single like threaded performance run. It's kind of like more like maybe like a static 4.8. So it's probably bouncing around between 4.8, 5, 4, 5 during that single core run. But we got 32 gigs of RAM, 3600 megahertz, 970 Pro, so 512 gigabyte NVMe. Motherboard is the Asus C370A, 280mm all-in-one from Thermaltake. Just because I needed those old school like Gen 1 hoses. Power supplies, Corsair SF600. That one because we needed to go SFX, and that's my favorite SFX power supply. We are using the Asus Z370A. It's about $170 motherboard. It's like middle of the road. The Prime series has been like Asus's, like, hey, if you still like to overclock, maybe you're not an extreme overclocker, you want good components without all the crazy bells and whistles, that's what the Prime series is. If you're trying to do like really high overclocks, like 1.4 volts or more, and maybe you'll want something a little more robust, but it's a solid board. This client, it's an architecture firm, so most of the systems I'm building on this channel are kind of going into the AEC industry, so architect, engineering, construction. I kind of accidentally niched into that, and this one is actually a white label build for Bimbox. It's their Striker S, and because I niched into that area of AEC, we got connected through a mutual acquaintance, and he needed someone to do his builds, and I'm always looking for more work. I have my own business of building computers, so that's how I kind of got into the whole Bimbox thing. And but I've been doing architect builds, like, you know, Autodesk Revit, Enscape, Lumion. I've been doing those builds before Bimbox. I do gaming builds, but they're not so often anymore, because my prices have kind of slowly gone up, and just because it's expensive to do business, and you know, if you're gonna be straight edge and report everything, it's not cheap. So slowly prices have gone up, and usually that deters the gaming crowd, unless it's like a high-end build. But I don't really do low-end systems just because my labor, it's counterproductive to like a budget system. Every now and then I'll hook someone up though, like, you know, it just depends. And the ironic thing about like a lot of CAD and engineering computers, gaming builds actually do really well. That's why if you look at these specs and it's like, man, it's kind of like a gaming build. Well, you're right. Most engineering software is single-threaded, and it's not often there's a lot of parallel computing going on, unless there's like some sort of rendering. There's some software that will leverage many cores besides rendering, but you know it usually if your workflow depends on that kind of work. It's been super fun working with Bimbox, so the owner Buck has a lot of interesting clients. Even before Bimbox, though, it's been fun like doing my own business. I've had an opportunity to work with NZXT a little bit, do some builds for them before they have their build department, their BLD department. So I've been to NZXT a few times. Just the business owners you meet along the way, it's really interesting. So let's see. I'm just gonna kind of map out where I need to put this USB 3 header. And I gotta find a way to get camera angles so you guys can see better what I'm doing, but I'm just kinda, I know where this is gonna land, so I'm just gonna kinda figure out how much slack I need. So I'm like, okay, this will be cool. And then now I'm gonna zip tie it like right there. And I do this now because it's a lot easier now than when the motherboard's installed. I don't have to be careful about hurting the motherboard. Don't want to hurt the motherboard's feelings. Alright, where's my wire cutters? This is totally random, the stream. I don't have a schedule yet. I do know I need to stream consistently though, so I'm like, oh dude, I'm totally not in the mood. I've had a headache all day. But let's have some fun. Let's do a stream. Alright, so now I could drop in the motherboard and we'll be good to go. IO shield, always make sure that's installed. Some IO shields like this one have these little tabs to ground the chassis to the motherboard. I always kind of bend them back a little bit. Not so much that they never contact, but if you don't do this, the little tabs will end up getting stuck inside like whatever port that is for. So some of those are like, one of them's like DisplayPort and one's HDMI on this one. If you're not careful, they'll get stuck inside the actual HDMI port and then you'll have to pull the motherboard out again. So that could be just as bad as forgetting to put the IO shield in. That's probably something Corsair should do one of their comics on next. I know they've done the comics for like cable management and hold on. They've done the comics for cable management and then forgetting to put the IO shield. I think they need to do one for like making sure the pins are out of the ports. Alright, I'm just making sure kind of everything lines up. And it does. So now let's get some screws. This is my handy dandy tray of screws that are specific to this chassis. Oh, come on, come on. Getting that first one. And when I'm doing these screws, like right now, I'm not tightening them in all the way. I always wait until I've started all of them. So I'll get a few turns on it. Make sure it's going in nice and smooth. If it feels like it's binding or something, you don't want to like force it in. You might want to wiggle the motherboard a little bit. And that's why I don't tighten them, so that I am able to like kind of wiggle around the motherboard to get the screw to go in straight. I love cable management, man. Let me move this monitor a little bit. It's kind of, this is the monitor I'm watching the stream on is the monitor I use for my emails. Man, I love that tangerine Red Bull. Yeah, man. It's funny actually. Some other boards do have daughter boards. So we're almost. We got three left. One of my buddies. I met him actually because I did a D-lid for him. He was originally a client. He explained to me how he always makes sure the CMOS battery is perfectly aligned in the reading position, so that if you're facing the motherboard, it's like perfectly aligned, like, you know, so you can read it. And now every time I do a build, it bugs me if it's not. I'm like, why did you have to say that to me? Now I need to fix it. And see how this one, and you may not be able to see it, but the words are going this way. So now I just like, thanks to Brian, you know who you are. Now I have to do that to him. Alright, let's see what's going on. Where'd the music go? Where'd the music go? Alright, I was worried I lost internet because hold on, the client text messaged. I better not watch my phone. Alright. The music just stopped because I forgot to put it on loop. But blame OCD, absolutely. I think that's why my cable management's pretty good, because certain things will bug me. And even on the zip ties, I make sure that the end, they're all like identical, like just the part, you know, like the locking mechanism, I make sure it faces the same way on every build. Alright, cool. Motherboard's done. Now we're gonna do the all-in-one cooler. We have to work on that outside of the chassis because of the fan orientation. And this will be the second part of cable management. You guys saw how I did the chassis. Now you'll see how I do these fan cables. Maestro 83, I promise you'll eventually see me do another build rather than this one. It's just like, this is kind of like what I have right now. Last week I had a Fractal Define C build. I just didn't stream it. Last week or the week before. Alright, let's get those fans out. ML140s. These are pretty good fans. They, just seeing guys that have reviewed them, they did pretty well. Definitely better than what Thermal Take includes. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's always fun having someone in chat. I guess I'm able to talk to myself, but it's always funner responding to someone in chat. Alright, this is going to be set up as a pool configuration. I don't necessarily prefer that. It's just I need to for this chassis. If I do these in push, I will end up with a really funky, weird, high-pitched, annoying sound. And that sound kicks in at like something like 1000 RPM. So it really destroys the functionality of these fans. And it's not the fan to blame, it's just the cutout, the cutout of the front panel. The reason they're cut out that way is because you can mount hard drives and just stuff to them. They have brackets you could buy from the webpage. So they have that pattern just for flexibility. The downside is you'll get really weird noises if you have like high RPM fans on them. Yeah, man, like I figured if someone's looking to watch someone build computers, hopefully they land on my stream. But you know, hey, better to watch this than nothing. I'm not sure if Paul and Kyle are still live. I think they had their tech show earlier. I need my other screwdriver. It's a number 2 Phillips. I specifically like this really long screwdriver because when I'm doing like motherboard screws and stuff, it's long enough that I'm not really fighting the chassis thickness. I mean, there's no reason to have a short screwdriver. Usually with PC work, you're gonna have the clearance for a long one, and it will make your life easier. Because then I could also like spin it with 2 hands. So these are all tight, and now we're gonna cable manage these. We're gonna check the stream real quick. See how the OBS cameras look. All right, so we're gonna run these cables down, and then to the bottom of the radiator. They're gonna clump up over here. Cable management is something that takes up a lot of time on my builds. But I wouldn't have it any other way, because I think it's a mark of professionalism and, you know, just having pride in your work. I may never work on this computer again, and whoever does, I would want them to say like, dang, someone had pride in their craftsmanship when they put this together. Alright. I couldn't get the short fan splitters that I normally use, so I have these much longer fan splitters for the next 2 builds, but it's all good. Gotta work with what you can get. What I am doing is I'm just making sure the connectors are the same length, and then now we're gonna just tighten them up. We're gonna tighten up these fans here. Zip tie them. It's my cowboy accent. It's high noon. Alright, and I'm gonna do 2 just because if I only did 1 it would bug me. I want both ends of it to look nice and tight. And this is what I mean, it's that the zip tie, the locking mechanism is the same direction. Alright. Giving away all my secrets. Every now and then I'll get an email or a DM on Instagram like, dude, you inspired me to do this or that, or and I totally dig it. There's plenty of work for all of us. I'm not worried about someone starting a business and taking all my clients away. But if that does happen, and if I helped you, please offer me a job. I think customer service is always king. That's what separates companies. I think I really try to have the best quality, but customer service is something that I think is more important than that even. Like, you could buy a Ferrari, but if it's a pain in the butt because the dealership's full of themselves and they don't want to help you, then what's the point? Alright, let's see, chat. Go ahead, man. Handle it. I have my Red Bull. I ate before streaming. My wife had made some like pasta, and it was leftovers, and I don't know why, but I swear leftovers always taste better. That's not necessarily true. I hate steak leftovers. Stuff like pasta or whatever, I'm all for that. So let's connect that USB header. Alright, everyone's always afraid of putting in their CPU. I'm always afraid. I'm not afraid of the CPU, but I'm afraid of that USB 3.0 header. Alright. So this case does not have like front audio. There's only a power button and two USB 3.0. So when I am doing these front I/O ports or I/O connectors, it's literally only the positive and negative because the switch has a light, and then the actual cables for a switch. And so far this is what cable management is looking like. This is out of the way. What's cool about it is you could still mount a hard drive down here. We could still mount one more M.2. You can mount a hard drive. You can mount a couple 2.5-inch drives. And it's super tiny. So now we're going to install the radiator. This is going in as a sub-assembly. Now these cables need to stay where I want them to. Oh, you know what'll make my life easier? Let's install that splitter right now. You could do it later, but doing it right now, you'll thank yourself. Alright, let's cut this zip tie. Where'd my wire cutters go? Alright. And let's plug her in. Come on. I swear, like, some of these are a pain in the butt. Okay. There we go. Let's take off this white tag, because I don't like it. Alright. So now I'll be good. You do this. This is a 280mm all-in-one cooler from Thermaltake with the Corsair ML140 fans. We're just leaving the stock thermal paste on the liquid cooler. I know people have done testing on the Corsair coolers and they found, like, I don't know what magic thermal paste they're using, but it outperforms some of the really good thermal paste that's out there. Corsair's OEM is Acetec, and that's also who makes the Thermaltake unit, so I'm thinking it's gotta be the same thermal paste. And we don't have any thermal issues. 5.1 gigahertz, like with this CPU, we'll stay under 80 degrees with the stress testing, and those are peaks. We might have like a 79 degrees Celsius peak, but most of the time during the stress test it's in the 60s. So that's what's amazing about delitting. I have some delitting videos if you guys want to check that out. There's a lot online. I use Rocket Cool products. I like the Der Bauer stuff, except it's hard to get in the US. Last I heard, he was going to try to get his new stuff in the Amazon store. I just don't know how that was working out. I met him at CES and he was a super cool dude. He's the delit king. Some people call me that, but I'm not. He is. Alright. I just looped the power cable for the pump around the pump, so basically the cable came out this way and I wrapped it around and then I looped it around the hardware that's located here. What I'm gonna do at this moment is plug in the fans, so I don't want to forget to do that. I have never done that. I actually have, but I catch it during my stress testing and all of that good stuff. My quality control moments, it gets found. I've never had a computer like ship with something silly like that. Alright. So, I usually don't secure those cables to the chassis. I'll just leave these kind of loose down here because I want this to be easy to service. I don't like, what if some IT guy needs to remove the radiator for something? I don't want him to like try to yank on it and it's all zip tied up. That's why I kind of like the sub-assembly kind of method. So now let's get this thing bolted up. Okay. I don't know how I am on time. I mentioned I only had an hour to do this. I'm estimating I have only an hour. I just want to make sure I get it done before my wife comes back from the pool with the kids, because she said she'll need my help when that happens. And the last thing I want to do is stop midway. So going live with the stream was a way to challenge myself to get it all done on time, rather than lose track of time and not accomplish anything. Alright, one more. And same thing as the motherboard, I don't tighten these all up. I wait until they're all installed and then I tighten them up. So now I could start tightening. Doing a little bit of an X pattern. Alright. Next will be the video card. Alright, so as you guys can see, starting to look like something. Let's get the video card in there. This awesome GTX 1080 that's like 2 years old, because NVIDIA is holding out on us gamers. Well, everyone suffers because a lot of professionals use GeForce too. It seems like the only engineers that use Quadro cards. Alright, so some stuff like SolidWorks you need Quadros and Radeon Pros and Fire Pros, but Autodesk like doesn't really need a Quadro. At least in for the architect folks, there's no benefit. I'm sure they'll invent one so that people could get back to buying Quadros. But right now, you're better off absolutely staying away from Quadros. At least for architecture work. Okay. The only reason I could recommend a Quadro for maybe an architect would be is if they're doing like real-time VR and their models are exceeding 11 or 12 gigabytes of VRAM, then they would need to go with like a Quadro for the VRAM. But it's not because there's a technology on it that they need. No worries, man. Oh, yeah. Did you guys finalize specs or anything? Or are you guys still in the negotiation part of it? Ironically, I had 2 quotes this week. Well, I did one already, and then I'm getting more information on another quote, to do another quote for a gaming build. But, man, it's like, I don't know, it seems like I don't really do much gaming builds, because, like, I know, I don't charge the cheapest, so usually the only people that end up going through with my gaming builds are the ones that are doing, like, the high-end gaming builds. Because on the low end, I don't really have a ton of value on the labor. Like if you only have $1,000, you could build a good gaming build, but that doesn't leave me, you know, doesn't leave me any profit. That's a little funny. This, here we go. This thing looked a little dirty. It was sealed. Cool. Cool, man. Yeah, just make sure to never buy parts for a customer. Make sure they either buy their own parts or they pay you in advance, which I'm sure you do. I know, but that's a question I get sometimes. It's like, I always tell people like, hey, well, does Amazon ship your computer before you pay for it, or you know, ship your merchandise? So no, so you gotta pay me and then I'll build it and I'll ship it. But I'm not gonna build it without you paying me first. And there's very few things I keep inventory on because things get outdated so fast when it comes to gaming builds. Some of the stuff I might keep on in stock are like cases or certain SSDs, power supplies, but you know, as far as like even RAM, I don't like to keep in stock because it's been expensive. Coolers, I usually keep 1 or 2 air coolers and maybe one all-in-one. It just depends. Hey Eli, what's up, man? Oh, sweet. Barbecue or inside the kitchen? By the way, when's your i7 show up, dude? I can't wait to see what yours will do overclockwise. I've heard some guys getting like 5.4 gigahertz, so I haven't had any golden ones like that. The best one so far at like 1.35, so under load it's actually more like 1.37 peak voltage. Best one so far has been 5.1 gigahertz, which, dude, that's not bad. That's like it's about like 223 single core score on Cinebench. This is our power supply bracket, and these are the PCIe covers. I should have a tool cart cam next time. Alright. Don't have much time to do this build, Eli. I mentioned, I think on Instagram, I only had an hour. I'm estimating I only have an hour. If I'm lucky, I'll have a little more, but we'll see. I'll check the chat right now. Just let me get these inserted. I've considered getting vented ones for these builds, but I actually don't want the air to recirculate. So I'm actually kind of cool with these solid ones. The whole bottom of the chassis is vented, so there's ways for air to get out. I don't really need PCIe slots. Okay. Man, I wish I could do streams without headphones. And I don't think I have the clearance for a legit mic either. Nice, man. Yeah, dude, I know for a fact you're gonna realize how much more snappy it is. And I'm sure that EVGA board is good. The cool thing is that the BIOS is pretty cool. First time I was in an EVGA BIOS was about 2 years ago, and I didn't like it then. But now that I've had time to go through it and kind of figure it out, it's actually pretty useful. And I don't know if all of their motherboards are going to get the built-in Prime, Prime 95 stress test, but at least some of their motherboard BIOSes are going to get updated, so you could stress test from within the BIOS and not need an OS. Alright. Just gonna now make sure all these slots are lined up. Yeah, they look cool. It bugs me if like one of them's out of alignment a little bit. Okay, we're coming up to the power supply. Almost there. Got one more bracket to install. I'm sure it'll be cool, man. Those heat sinks do look functional. It looks like such a bare board. It looks like it's missing stuff, but it just shows honestly that EVGA is like no BS. You know, the connectors even offset the way it is so that when it's on a test bench you could overclock easily. And that's why it doesn't have 4 DIMM slots anyways. It's because the guys that are going for world records usually aren't using more than 2 modules, unless it's like a quad channel RAM overclocking record or something they're doing. I remember like the last time I've seen a heatsink like that on Asus was a few years ago, you know, on their consumer boards, like the Sandy Bridge days basically. And it sucks because I like cool temperatures. That's why I have the X299 Dark. And I'm gonna play around with getting those Noctua fans mounted. Honestly, I didn't buy them for that board. I bought them for Asus boards because you could get the little bracket to mount a 40 millimeter fan. So that's honestly what I got it for. Because when we do these i9 builds in these chassis, I need that little fan there. I may like try to do 2 fans. We'll see. But that was honestly the real reason. But then I got it home and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should put it on my motherboard. So let's see, everything's good to go. Let's get the power supply unboxed. Yeah, 1M.2, I've gotten used to running 2 of them. Like the BH2 has 2. It has a 950 Pro and a 960 Evo. But honestly, man, you just get one and that's kind of like all you need. It's not a big deal. This is my China-made Kershaw. I don't think it's made in... Yeah, it's China. I just happened to pick it up because I wanted a cheap daily driver. But I'm missing having something nice. I'm kind of looking to get like a zero tolerance ZT knife as my daily knife. I got my brother one for being one of my groomsmen at my wedding, and I've been wanting one ever since. just like the components, seeing the brown color will make them run cooler. I think it's so true though, man. Like with the color, like I think you know, people estimate it holds back on their sales, and I really think it does. I think now that they're making those black coolers with the black fans, I honestly think they're gonna sell a lot more. I hate the vertical. Like, I love the Z370G Asus board. I love it, love it, love it. That would be the one I'd get. But I don't think I'd use that vertical slot. Even though it's supposedly like for cooler temperatures, I just wouldn't use it. It'd bug me. I've had to use it on some builds. Because we've needed 2 of them. But, it bugs me. Alright. I can't wait for the new SF600s to come out, because at Computex they were showing they're going to be platinum rated, and they make it look like it's going to come with individually sleeved cables. It was pictured with it, so that would be a huge plus. It's my favorite SFX power supply. I don't see the point in getting like an 800 watt like from Silverstone when it only has one 8-pin anyways. So I'm like, dude, if you're gonna make $160 or so 800 watt SFX power supply, SFXL actually, I believe, give me two 8-pin EPSs, please. So guys, we have an i9 one of these coming up, and that one's gonna be really fun. I might stream it, or maybe I'll stream it and just know that it's gonna take maybe 2 days to build. But it's gonna be a 7920X with 2 power supplies, and that is because it's a jigsaw puzzle of a build. It's gonna have 2 Quadro P5000 cards, so that's already like, I don't know, what are they like? I think they're like 3,000 a piece. I forgot, but it's gonna be 2 of those P5000s, an overclock 7920X. I think we're only doing 32 gigs of RAM. I don't think it was 64. And we're gonna liquid cool it. It's probably gonna be a 240mm all-in-one sitting at the bottom, but I might go with a 240 EK loop. I'm gonna try to do the 240 EK loop. It's gonna carry a $14,000 sticker price. It's gonna be an expensive one. Yep. Case XX knives. I haven't seen them. I gotta look into them. I used to follow knives a lot when I was like, you know, younger, like 18 to 21. I didn't have a lot of money then, so it was like I did have my Spyderco that I think was stolen. I remember giving a ride on my buddy and his cousin and my Mustang, and later, you know, that was earlier in the day, and then later in the day, in the evening, I couldn't find my knife. And I'm like, did the dude jack me for it, or did I lose it? I never knew. But I haven't had real crazy expensive knives, just Kershaw's, and the US made Kershaw's, and Spyderco, one of the Boker, I think it was Boker knives, ceramic with carbon fiber, gentleman's knife. That one broke on me though. I wasn't doing something gentlemanly, I guess. Alright, this will probably trigger people, but I'm going to explain why I'm mounting the fan inbound. And that is just so that, because right now the back of the chassis there's no ventilation, it's literally just a power supply. So I want cool air. Let's see. Yeah. I want cool air to go, or air period. It's not going to be super cool. I want air to go through the chassis and out the back to kind of help get some heat off of the VRM. Since it's an architect build, honestly, it's not going to be using, it's not going to be under heavy load a lot. Technically, the i5 does really well for architecture use, but IT departments don't like the idea of buying an i5 workstation, so they still get the i7s, even though in reality they're not really gaining anything. Oh, cool. Cool about the knife. So I'm picturing, when you say that, I'm picturing like a wooden handle, folding knife. Oh, you know what, man? I should send you a picture of a knife I have. When you say Country Boy knife, it's kind of like that. It's been engraved by apparently a well-known engraver. I was always trying to find out more. It's a buck knife, but it's got some custom engraving. I got it at work for, you know, like some sort of award for. It's basically like being a good employee kind of thing throughout the year, but I always wondered if there was any value to the knife. Alright. because it's not something I'd ever use. It's like a showpiece kind of knife. Alright, let's get the music going again. Alright guys, I promise to like have something else next stream. I would love to have more mainstream music on here, but with the whole copyright stuff, I figured I'll keep it straight edge and play music that works with their rules. Alright, so first things first, I always plug in all the connectors. So this is a video card one. Put my hand on the back to help brace the video card. So when I push it in, I'm not putting pressure on the slot. This is the motherboard one, the EPS, the 8-pin. So that'll go in like so. This means that this is the PCI Express one, so let's find the right side. Same thing. Alright, and then now we're going to do the 24-pin. This will be the first one I plug into the power supply. We're going to first plug into the motherboard. Okay, we're nice and plugged in. And then we're kind of gonna twist it and go straight into the power supply. And then I'm gonna kind of like do a little bend so that you can kind of see the cables are kind of at an angle like this. How's the camera angle looking? It's okay. And then now I'm gonna bring in these cables. I need more zip ties out. Hold on. Let's get more zip ties on the table. Oh man, almost done. So I'm gonna bundle these all together, and I'm gonna apply very light pressure on the video card, so these cables will act like a GPU brace. And then we're gonna zip tie them all together. And then you notice like I'm still being mindful of the orientation of the zip tie because I like them all in the same direction. Okay, so now just make sure. Cool. And then now let's crank down on it. And then the next thing I'm going to do with the video card cables, I'm going to wrap it around and then plug it into the back here. You know, some of the earlier batches I've worked with on these power supplies used to be super hard to plug in. Like my fingers would be sore after doing just one build. But somewhere down the line they fixed it, which I'm so happy for because I was tempted to switch power supplies because of it, despite me loving this thing. So this is the only one that's left, the EPS, and we're gonna plug it in, and this will get zip tied also. I'll show you how. So these video card ones are running up and back around. I'm gonna zip tie the video card and the EPS ones all together. Let's see. People don't like brown. Yeah, that triggers people on the Noctuas. Country knife, yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, man. I'm curious to see. Yeah, I'm picturing. You know, maybe I've seen it on your Instagram feed, on your photography page. I might have, cause I know I've seen your rifle there. All right. And now we're gonna cut these cables and we're done. I don't know if my wife is almost home or not, but I accomplished what I wanted. Let's just kind of organize this cable a little bit. There we go. Where's that little bracket? This bracket, guys, that they include, you could use to mount fans. Depending on how your build is arranged, you could use it to mount fans or hard drives. Technically, I could probably mount like I think this would be a 60mm that would fit here. Or I could rearrange these a little bit so I could put another fan right there, but that's not how I configure them. Where are those screws? Here they are. Yeah, man, it does, but it's cool. I'm a city person, so it's like a lifestyle I don't really experience often. So it's kind of cool seeing it. So here's why I like these hoses, guys. Obviously it's sticking out, but they're so flexible. It's like no issue at all to get them to fit. I have one more zip tie to do, and that's the front cables. But boom. So now I just got to do this cable right here, and then this build is ready for software. I don't know how long this stream was, but I hope I made it within an hour. Maybe this was another hour and 15-minute build, I'm not sure. But considering I did it live and it was only that long, I'd be happy with that. Alright. Let's pop on that panel. Funny, man, like, yeah, it's just a different lifestyle. I have never owned boots. My cousin, when he was younger, had a mullet and boots, but I don't know why, because he lived in, we lived in the same city, nowhere near any kind of cowboy influences. And this protective shield is still, screen is still on the back. So it might look a little fuzzy. That's because of the protective film still on it. But there we go. She's all done. Should be ready to do the BIOS update and Windows. So guys, I know my time is pretty limited, so I'm probably gonna call it a stream. Yeah, well, we should be doing more D-lids. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna try to do a D-lid. Let's see, I think it shows up tomorrow, so I might do the D-lid tomorrow on stream. 7940X, so that's like the 14 core Intel. What else we have? We have 2 more builds to do this week, and I don't know. We'll see whatever comes up. I got a few quotes out too for 2 gaming builds, so we'll see how those go. Thanks for watching, guys. I am going to call it a stream. Please catch me on social media and let me know you saw the stream and say hi. I'll see you guys later. Till next time, I'll see ya. Bye.